I'd like to welcome, first of all, the work of the Raise the Roof campaign, and I was delighted to attend their launch in Meath not so long ago. From Phil Hogan to Alan Kelly, to Simon Coveney, to Owen Murphy, and now to Darragh O'Brien, we have been told that there's no overnight fix to this housing crisis that we're in. However, it's now more than a decade since we heard that excuse first used in this Dáil. I have 3 constituency offices, and we are inundated with housing issues. And like many in this chamber, we have heard so many horror stories in the last while in terms of the housing crisis that is engulfing so many families. Housing, the crisis it's in, is in its worst state than it's ever been before. And I've heard the government blame so many different factors for the housing crisis. I've heard the government blame COVID for the lack of supply. But let's be honest in this. In the first quarter of 2021, Ireland was the only country in Europe that closed down building sites. Ireland had the worst housing crisis in Europe and still was the only country to shut down for 3 months the building of homes. You'll hear no other political party mention that issue here today. Your colleagues majored today during the confidence debate on the points that the opposition are refusing to bring solutions to the table in terms of the housing crisis. And, Minister, that's grossly untrue. We in Aontú have tabled a bill in this chamber that would end the tax advantages of REITs. It would reduce the competitive advantages that REITs have when they compete against first-time buyers. We in Aontú have tabled a bill in this chamber that would end the ability of Airbnbs to function in towns and cities with a population of 10,000 people or more for 3 years. This overnight would increase the long-term supply of long-term lets to families in this state by thousands. We in Aontú have been urging the government to get real when it comes to vacant property taxes. The ministers refused for years to talk about vacant property taxes, and we demand that homes that are vacant for long periods of time are taxed properly to get them back into use, and that we ring-fence that money and invest that money back into those vacant properties so that they're in good shape, that families can use them as well. And despite the urgency of all of that, the idea of vacant house taxes is still in the future tense when it comes to this government. We in Aontú have urged for NAMA land to be used to build thousands of social homes in this country, but the Taoiseach refused to do it. He made the arguments to me in this Dáil that it is against the mandate that NAMA has for it to build social homes. He says that NAMA's job was to protect the taxpayer, and this was underpinned by legislation. First of all, you're the government. You can change the legislation. You can change the mandate that NAMA has so that it can build social homes. Second of all, there are over 70,000 families in receipt of RAS and HAP in this state. The taxpayer is paying private landlords every month for the use of 70,000 homes. The government is spending €1.3 billion on RAS and HAP every year to private landlords, when it could be using that money to build public and social housing. The government is not protecting the taxpayer in any way in relation to that. We have set out a plan in relation to the increase in the number of apprentices. Aontú has proposed a vacant site tax that would actually work. The last vacant site tax that your government had raised €29,000 in its last year. Never before has a tax been cost more to draft than it actually collected in a given year. It's absolutely incredible. I've carried out research into the level of vacant state buildings and land in the state, and I have found out that there are hundreds of state-owned buildings right through the country and thousands of acres of government land that's actually vacant at the moment. Vacant in a housing crisis. The HSE is a worse offender. It has 137 unused buildings or vacant land at the moment. And our analysis shows that the Thornton Hall site, which was bought by the PDs for a big prison a number of years ago, is still under spuds at the moment because the government hasn't got it together to use it for the purpose for the community. The government has been boasting about full employment, but remember this, under your economic model, many families with both parents who are working can't afford to buy a house in the area or rent a home. And that's a fault with your economic model.